Hello and welcome back to the Max Runout YouTube channel. I know I have not made a video in a long time, but some issues kept me out of my shop, but things are better now, and I expect and hope to make lots more videos in the near future. Today I want to talk about a new project that I started on just a couple weeks ago. I happened to see a video made by Steve Summers. If you haven't checked out his channel, you definitely should. He's got some great projects, but he was in this video he was using a hydraulic press that looked like a pretty compact and kind of a tabletop unit, and it struck me that I haven't had a hydraulic press in my shop, and it's a tool that I could use, but didn't want something big, and I don't have a lot of room for things like that, so I decided maybe I would have a look at what he had and get something like that. Well, it turned out that was a press made by the Carver company, and it's called a laboratory press, and it turns out that that's a very expensive piece of equipment. Even used ones on YouTube, many of them sell for more than $2,000. So, I'm sorry, used ones on eBay sell for over $2,000. So I was a little turned off by that, but then I took a closer look at it, and it looked like something that wouldn't be that hard to duplicate. Maybe I could build my own. So the main equipment you needed for that, one was a hydraulic jack, and I've got a real old hydraulic jack that I've had for years and years, and it hasn't been doing anything lately, and so that could become part of it. It has some vertical uprights that are all thread basically, and I was able to. You can find that just about anywhere, so that's not a problem. But there were two pieces of heavy castings on the bottom. One's the base, and another one is across the top of the unit, as you can see in the picture here. I had no idea where I'd find anything like that. But I talked to some friends, and one of them suggested that I consider using a punch press die set, and that would perhaps serve the purpose. So I looked again on eBay, and it turns out, yeah, there's lots and lots of them for sale. They're not very expensive, but they look like they had the heavy castings that I would need to provide the top and bottom surfaces of the press. So I shopped around a bit and decided to give it a try. I bought one, and the price wasn't very steep, but the shipping kind of broke the bank. But still, even with that, it was a pretty good deal. So I also picked up a couple of pieces of 1-inch diameter all thread at the local tractor supply store, and they're 3 feet long. Actually, I was pretty excited about this, and I got well along building it before I decided to start this video. So you'll have to bear with me a bit, because we'll be doing a little catch up here, but I'll show you all the processes that I did, and I think you'll get the idea. It was not difficult at all. So now let's take a look at the progress I've made so far. This is the punch press die set that I bought. Originally, well, it's a two-piece setup, and the top section, which is going to be the top of my my hydraulic press, originally had these sleeves pressed in. I did quite a bit of work on this thing before I decided to make a video, so I wanted to start now before I got too far along. And the bottom section had pins on it like this, and these were both precision ground parts and match very well. And the top half of the would slide up and down on these pins. So I wanted to make when I wanted to have the hydraulic press, I wanted this more balanced. I wanted the screws or the posts that are going to hold the top up more close to the center of the weight, center of the mass of this thing. So I put two new 1-inch holes in the top section, and I used the precision posts and inserts to line the two sides up, so I was able to drill right through here and match the two perfectly, and well, as perfect as I ever get. But anyway, I went right through these. I actually had a 1/4-inch piece of aluminum in between these when I did the drilling, and I drilled right through these on the mill, and started with a 1/2-inch drill and went well down into the lower section. And then I went with a 3/4-inch drill and also went down a bit into the lower section, and then came through with a 1-inch drill, and I stopped at the bottom of the first section, and that allowed me to have a part that would slip over. My vertical supports are going to be 1 inch in diameter, so that allowed that to slip through. Now they're going to be 1-inch diameter, 8 turns per inch ball thread, and so I couldn't go all the way down into here with 1 inch because I wanted to tap this so that I could turn the all thread into the bottom section. So I started out to drill these. I went down with a 3/4 all the way through, but then I needed 7/8, and I didn't have a 7/8 drill. 7/8 is the recommended tap size for 1-inch number 8 threads per inch threads, and so I had to bore this and to the 7/8 size, or actually a little bit above that. And the problem is my boring bar hit the pins, and I didn't want to break the setup down, and I didn't want to change anything because I had these lined up with the mill and the DRO, so I used this is really hard stuff. So both of these are very hard material, and so I got in with an angle grinder and a cutoff wheel, and I cut these two off so I could then finish the boring and the tapping. So once I got it bored, I went in with a 1-inch tap, and that's as far as I've gotten with this so far. So this is going to be the base section. I'll mount this. I've got a little cart that I made for my use with my arbor press, and it's moved to another location now, and the cart's going to serve the hydraulic press here for a while. So anyway, this will we'll get 2 pieces of all thread in here, and then there'll be some nuts on it, and this will ride up above that, and the hydraulic jack will sit on here. Now here are the rest of the parts. This is my old jack. It's at least 40 years old, maybe older, and so it don't owe me a thing. And I decided to, this screw height adjustment was stuck in the full out position, and after fiddling with it for a while and not being able to get it loose, I decided to just cut it off. And I made a this part on the lathe. It's the what are we doing here? Okay, it's the going to be the bottom of the system. This will sit on the bottom portion of the unit, and this, when you jack it up, it'll push whatever is on top of here up. And I made a hole in here that matches the size of this, just a little bit larger, and it'll rest on the actual hydraulic cylinder, the top of that, which is pretty flat. And I put concentric circles in here so that when I cut it on the lathe, so that you could easily center up whatever it is you were trying to press. And these are the going to be the vertical members that will screw into the base, the tapped holes I put in the base. And I actually put a taper on these. The tapping was not the easiest thing to do, so it's tapped down into there, maybe an 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, something like that. And I put a taper on here that matched the taper of the tap. That way I could drive the thing in further and get some additional, at least partial threads down into the base. So this nut will lock against the base, and these will be raised up near the top, and or whatever height you're going to be using at that particular time. These were 3 feet long, and I left them full length. I'll probably never need that much, but didn't see any reason to cut them off. Certainly if I did cut them off, I'd need something about 1 inch longer in the near future. So anyway, I'll put this together, and you can see what it looks like here in the next step, and then we'll get on to the finishing touches. The reason I had to drag those sleeves out of here is because if they would get in the way, if they were up against here, they would get in the way of these nuts. I wouldn't be able to tighten the nuts. They would hit them just a little bit, and besides, that would make it a pain to try to put a wrench on them. So that's why I had to drive these out. But that turned out to be not too hard to do. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the remainder of the posts on the bottom section, but we'll decide that here in the near future. Okay, we got the press together. It's mounted on a little cart that I originally built for my arbor press, but it's occupying that space right now. And you can see we got the top piece up here, and I got a nut above and below the unit so that it holds it up and also can put pressure on it. And here's the old jack. We gave it a bath, and along with the rest of it, and a shot of WD-40 to keep the rust away from the newly machined surfaces. And this we also ended up, at a suggestion of a friend of mine, adding a couple springs to the jack to pull the jack back down when you're done with an operation. Those are just kind of heavy-duty screen door springs that I picked up at the hardware store, but they seem to work fine and pull it back down. This top piece, you probably noticed, is made out of aluminum, and that isn't the ideal material for this, but it's what I had. I had a nice 4-inch diameter, I don't know, 2.5-inch long drop of aluminum, and I made it out of that. If it doesn't hold up, I can always make something else out of steel, or maybe reinforce the base of that. But anyway, it'll do for the time being. And I got a couple other things I want to do. I want to make a nicer handle for it. The one that came with it is kind of junky, and maybe something to turn that pressure release. But it ought to work now, and we're gonna take a look at giving it its first trial here. Okay, this is Jacob's Super Chuck. It's a 3/4 inch that I picked up at a swap meet recently, and it's pretty dirty. Looks like it needs to be cleaned up, but when I got it home, I found out another thing about it. The chuck key doesn't fit in. So somebody's had this thing apart and didn't put it together right. Hopefully it's not a mess on the inside, but anyway, you can see that right up here, this outer sleeve is not pressed up far enough. So I'm going to take it apart, and that's going to be a good test for the first trial of this this press, because that's just what you need for doing this kind of job. We'll start with it up there, and I had a piece here that I machined out to fit over the top of this chuck and just sit on the outer sleeve, so we can try pressing that out. And this is just another piece that I had laying around, a piece of pipe. So we'll see what we can get here. I'll bring you in a little closer. We'll watch the there we go. Just we gotta let it down. And the chuck is apart. I'm not going to go any further with it right now, but because I want to finish up a few more details on the press, but it's ready to disassemble, and we'll see if we can find out what's wrong with it. I'll make another video on that if there's interest. So I'm happy. We got a pretty nice press. I think it looks quite similar to the Carver unit that Steve Summers has, and seems to be doing the job. So that's my press project. I put a link to Steve Summers' video, or actually a later one than the one I originally saw, but it does show him using the press and get his comments on it as well. One of the things he didn't like about it is it didn't have a through hole on top, so if you wanted to do something like broaching, it would be impossible because there was no place for the brooch to go. So I added a through hole on the top. I don't currently own a brooch set, but if I ever do get one or borrow one or whatever, I'll be able to use those. So I'm happy with the project. I like the way it went. I'm happy to get back on YouTube here and create some more videos. If anybody else would like to give this a try, please get in touch with me and let me know through the comments. Or I have a YouTube, a mail email address now specifically for the channel. It's maxrunout@gmail.com. So I'll put that in the video description, along with also a link to the Steve Summers video. So with that, I'm happy to be back doing this again, and look forward to seeing you the next time.